Yes, Shruti, I think we can start now. Principal sir is also there in the meeting, so we can start.
So Lavanya, we can begin now.
Okay, so now we'll begin with the event. Do you know what are the chief forms of beauty? Well, they are order, symmetry, and definiteness, which are demonstrated in a special degree in world of mathematics. A very good afternoon to one and all present here. Today, I, Lavanya Sharma, Council Member of Tesseract, the Mathematics Society of Shivaji College, University of Delhi, welcome you all to this interesting session on symmetry and puzzles with our amazing speaker, Dr. Amit Kulshresht. We truly hope that you'll enjoy the dive into this dimension of mathematics, and this will help you illuminate some new paths in your way of approaching the subject. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. Participants are requested to keep their videos on and audio on mute throughout the event so as to avoid streaming errors. If you have any questions, you can post them in the chat box, which will be taken at the end of the session for addressal. In case of misconduct, the participant responsible will be removed from the meeting without prior notice. Due to ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, we could not organize this event in offline mode, so please bear with us. We request your cooperation in conducting this virtual event smoothly. A tribute to the Almighty before starting any work is considered auspicious. So before moving forward, let's offer our prayers to the Supreme Being with the traditional lamp lighting ceremony. Wow, that really boosted us with positivity and divinity. Well, I can proudly say that Shivaji College is the premier institution in West Delhi, accredited with grade A by NAAC, and has completed 60 glorious years of imparting knowledge and wisdom to the young minds from all over India. Our college organized several programs as part of the Diamond Jubilee celebration, including inaugural talk, webinar, and 60th annual day event. Let's have a look at the eminent personalities that graced our celebration with their presence. Honorable Vice President of India, Shri M. Venkaiah Naidu ji, Shri Arif Muhammad Khan, Honorable Governor of Kerala, Professor V. Ram Gopal Rao, Director of IIT Delhi, Professor Rakesh Bhatnagar, Vice Chancellor of Banaras Hindu University, Professor P.C. Joshi, Pro Vice Chancellor of University of Delhi, and Professor M. Jagdish Kumar, Vice Chancellor of Jawaharlal Nehru University. As a part of the Diamond Jubilee celebration, Tesseract has been organizing webinars, academic talks, and workshops. Last week also, an academic talk on Fourier series approach to the isoperimetric inequality was hosted by the department. And this week, we are hosting this national webinar on symmetry and puzzles. Anything is possible when you have the right people there to support you. Having said that, I would like to thank our principal sir, Professor Shiv Kumar Sahadev, who has profoundly supported everything which could be helpful in the holistic development of students. It is due to his generosity and underpinning that the department has been able to host such events from time to time, giving students exposure beyond the curriculum. So I would like to thank Sir for giving us this platform to enrich our skills and knowledge. As a gratifying gesture, I would like to present this virtual bouquet to our respected sir and invite him to say a few words of motivation. Please, sir.
Dr. Amit Kulshresht, colleagues and dear students, I am very happy that department has organized today's national webinar on very interesting topic of symmetry. As we all know that symmetry is a very important topic in all algebraic structures. Group is sitting inside, and whenever we talk of group, we talk of symmetry. So I'm sure that this talk is going to be very interesting and you will all enjoy this talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your words of encouragement. Now, our speaker for today, Dr. Amit Kulshrestha, is an associate professor at IISER Mohali. Sir was a visiting scientist at ISI Bangalore and Delhi and a postdoctoral researcher at Université Catholique de Leuven, Belgium. He completed his PhD from TIFR, Mumbai in the broad area of algebra. His research interests include the study of central simple algebras, quadratic forms, linear algebraic groups, and word maps and groups. Sir has been disseminating his knowledge to the curious minds in various workshops, seminars, and conferences held at many prestigious institutes at national as well as international level. Sir has also published many of his research papers. It's really our pleasure to have you here with us, sir. I would like to present this virtual bouquet as a symbol of our gratification and hospitality for our honorable speaker for the day. With this, I would like to invite Dr. Jitendra Agarwal, TIC of Department of Mathematics, to address the virtual gathering. Please, sir.
Thank you so much, Lavanya. Very good afternoon to all the participants. On the behalf of Department of Mathematics, Shivaji College, I welcome all the faculty members, research scholars, and students from all over the country present here. Shivaji College has recently completed a journey of 60 glorious years in imparting education to the youth of our country. This is the Diamond Jubilee year of the college. Department of Mathematics has planned a series of academic talks in diverse areas of mathematics. Today's talk on symmetry and puzzles is a part of this endeavor. As told by Lavanya earlier, we had organized a talk on Fourier series approach to isoperimetric inequality last week, given by Dr. Pratyush Kumar, Associate Professor, IIT Guwahati. The main objective of organizing such talks is to improve the learning of students so that they can appreciate the rigor and beauty of mathematics. I sincerely thank our respected principal, sir, for motivating and encouraging the department for organizing such events. Sir has always been a great source of inspiration for all the students and faculty members. It's an absolute delight of mine to welcome Professor Amit Kulshrestha, Department of Mathematical Sciences, IISER Mohali. I sincerely thank sir for accepting our invitation for this academic tour. Sir, it's a great opportunity for all of us to learn from you. I now request you to please address the audience. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I must really thank the entire Shivaji College for giving me this opportunity to interact with a very young, dynamic set of students. I'm thankful to the principal, Professor Sahadev, and Dr. Jitendra Agarwal, and the student mathematics club of Shivaji College. I wish if the event were offline and I could visit. I had visited Shivaji College, I guess, around 2.5 years ago, and this would have been another opportunity, but the current circumstances are forcing us to organize events virtually. But in any case, I wish in future I could do that physically by visiting your college. I assume most of the people, most of the participants today, they are the bachelor's, undergraduate students, maybe first year, second year. Some of them could be third year as well. Right? The first year may not be there, right? Because the admissions might not have happened, but mostly second year and third year would be there. Okay. I would try to be as basic as possible. So for some of the experienced learners, or some of the faculty members, it might be repetition of things, but nevertheless, there is no harm in looking at things again and refresh our viewpoint. So with that, let me share the screen. And one thing I would say that although it is mentioned that you ask everything in the end through chat, but if you feel so, you can write that in the chat. And if you're having a very strong urge to contribute to the discussion, please unmute yourself and enrich the discussion. So can you see the screen right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you can also see the slides moving.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
yes, sir.
That's fantastic. So I would start asking this question, or maybe you ask this question to yourself. So because before I actually come to the main topic, I think it's quite important for us to orient ourselves. So we should be on the same page, right? Most of us have come to mathematics with certain expectation, and the kind of mathematics that we have at undergraduate is very different from what we had in the school, right? So I'll give some thought to that as well. So just to orient you toward the content part, let's have this question. What is the meaning of mathematics for you? When you hear the word mathematics, what comes to your mind? And people would have different answers, and I think people are writing something in the chat as well. Yeah, okay. So there is some request from the president of your maths club that you can post your answers or questions on the chat box. Okay, so everyone has different perceptions. Let me just summarize whatever is according to my experience. First thing I would say is shapes. Although usually people tend to say numbers, because numbers are the first things that we learn in the school, right? When we are in the nursery school, we are taught 1, 2, 3, 4. But to me, somehow shapes are more natural. They are the first thing that a child starts cognizing even before the concept of number comes to, the concept of number is introduced to a child. So these shapes could be 2D shapes, 2-dimensional shapes, 3-dimensional shapes. These could be flat shapes, or so to say, let me just give it a name, Euclidean shapes, or these could be curved shapes, okay? Shapes with curvature. Well, I'm not going to discuss the meaning of dimension in the most rigorous way, or meaning of the Euclidean or curved in the most rigorous way, but I'm assuming that we all have intuition about it. So let's just build upon that intuition. So shapes are first things which I would put in the realm of mathematics. Second are, of course, numbers. And as children, as I said, we learn integers, positive and negative. Later on, fractions come to our lives. Real numbers come to our lives. And eventually, in the end of the school, say class 12th, we have complex numbers also. So shapes and numbers, those are two fundamental things. And we should not ignore symbolic expressions. Symbolic expressions, they are something like, say, there are two symbols and we are putting them to some power, a plus b to the power n, or x square plus y square minus 1 is equal to 0. That's also a symbolic expression. And these things are not separate from each other. So we should always have our faith in the unity of mathematics. That's what I want to say, and slowly in my talk, that point would come up. So when we study shapes, generally that time we say that, okay, we are studying geometry, okay, or maybe we are studying topology. So geometry and topology, they are keywords for our understanding of shapes. When we learn numbers in the beginning of our school career, we say we are studying arithmetic, but later on we start saying maybe it is calculus, because calculus is eventually about learning numbers, right? Computing numbers in some efficient way. Tools like functions, differentiation, those are tools, but eventually you are concluding something about numbers. So you say calculus, or later on you start saying analysis, right? Real analysis, for example. So that is about numbers. And symbolic expressions, although our perception, general perception is that symbolic expressions come to our lives when the subject of algebra is taught to us during the beginning of the secondary school. But I would say symbolic expressions start, we start recognizing symbolic expressions much earlier. For example, when you are counting 1, 2, 3, that 1 is actually a symbol. It is a symbol for something. And as such, even if right now I ask you, what's the meaning of 2? Don't tell me in terms of that notation 2, but something more. I think you would be thinking, and everyone would be thinking, right? So even those numbers are symbolic expressions. So it's not just algebra, even numbers are symbolic expressions. Nevertheless, anyway. So in symbolic expressions, they usually try to define some rule, or it's a plus b to the power n is actually an entire mathematical sentence. And these sentences may be related to other branches of mathematics. For example, when we look at it, circle comes to our mind. So symbolic expressions help us in understanding ideas of numbers as well as shapes. Okay. So that's just to orient you, and maths is a mix of all these things. Okay. That is the first level of thought. And let me put some more philosophy to it so that you can understand the rest of the talk much better. And there is some nice, some nice comment has come. Maybe along that comment, I would continue. So first of all, as a mathematics student, I think it's a good idea for you to have your own personal definition of mathematics. You may try to discuss it with your friends, with your teachers, and come up with your own definitions. I thought of mathematics in certain ways, and I came up with certain way of expressing mathematics, and that's what I'm writing here. But each one of you should think about it, and your definition could slightly vary from my definition, but nevertheless. So this is first thing which I am saying. What is mathematics? So I'm generalizing mathematics beyond what one would perceive as a curriculum, as I say, calculus or geometry or something. So for me, maths is an organized way of processing ideas. Remember what we had in the beginning, the first slide: numbers, shapes, symbolic expressions. All these are ideas. Okay. Even shape is an idea. As such, triangle, what is a triangle? There could be some tangible representations of triangles which are visually conceivable, but as such, shape itself is an abstract concept. So everything, even numbers, are abstract concepts. Symbolic expressions are certainly abstract. So all these things are ideas. So maths is an organized way of processing ideas and deriving, now that word I am highlighting, deriving eternal conclusions objectively. What is eternal? Eternal meaning those conclusions are not going to be time dependent. Usually that happens in most of the sciences, even in the humanities. Ideas change with generations. If not generations, maybe with centuries, right? A new paradigm shift happens, new paradigm comes and shifts happen. But mathematics is time independent way of processing ideas in a way so that if I do it or you do it, it's the same. So these conclusions are going to be eternal and objective. Okay, that is just one way of putting it. Another way of saying something in a similar direction is that maths is understanding patterns in a given context and then asking new questions. So asking questions is also part of maths, and attempting to answer them without letting ourselves digress from irrelevant details. That is something. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay.
Ma'am, may Joy rejoining so
Okay.
that you can see it.
Sure. So that's the point. So in maths, what you do, there are so many things. We observe patterns and ask questions, answer them, and don't allow ourselves to divert because there are some irrelevant details. So you just synthesize ideas, ignoring the irrelevant part. So that is one thing about maths. And from this viewpoint, there are so many things which are mathematics. You can study even music in a mathematical way, right? So that I will call mathematics. Any mathematical way of thinking is mathematics. So what are the tools to achieve this? What are the tools to process ideas in an objective way? First is indispensable thing, observing patterns. Patterns in ideas. And what are ideas? For example, ideas are numbers, symbols, shapes. And beyond that also, there are so many things which are ideas. So you observe pattern in those ideas. That is first tool. Without that, you can't really proceed. And then logical steps. So you should have a logic system where you can determine what is true, what is false, from one step to another step, how to go. So logical steps are another thing. And then there are certain algorithmic steps. maybe the one simplified word to express what is algorithmic step would be computation. And then another indispensable tool which is there is abstraction. In our school days, all of us have become experts in algorithmic steps. We are all experts in computation. Some of us are good at observing patterns also. And now at undergraduate level, you are also understanding that what's the meaning of A implies B and how is it different from B implies A. Yeah. And the entire predicate calculus, for example. So those are logical steps for us. Deriving conclusion B from conclusion A, those implication steps. Abstraction is another crucial point. It's another crucial tool to do mathematics effectively. But unfortunately, what happens is that since we are so much obsessed with algorithmic steps, particularly during our school days, that when abstraction comes, many students start diverting from maths, saying that nahi, ye to maths nahi, ye to English hai, right? These theorems are entirely written in English. Yes, so when you have to express your thoughts, you would express it in some language, right? Sometimes the language could have more symbols, and if you call it language of maths, okay, fine. But sometimes those ideas could be expressed best through certain natural language. So it's all right if your maths book has a lot of English and a lot of abstraction, because without abstraction, mathematics is not powerful. Abstraction is the soul of mathematics. And I'll try to make this point in this lecture through certain demonstrations. So don't underestimate the unity of mathematics that is underlying all the mathematical principles. So I hope you are with me so far. And just to say a word about abstraction, and this comes somewhere in the Wikipedia. I have copied it from there with some tweaking words here and there of mine. So abstraction is a process of extracting the underlying essence of a mathematical concept. Okay, so it's a tool through which you can extract the essence, extract the useful thing, and throw away anything which is irrelevant. And in the abstraction, you also remove any dependence on what you may call it real world objects with which it might originally have been connected, and generalizing it eventually to have wider applications. So maybe your ideas came from, or your pattern recognition process was motivated by certain real world objects, but in the abstraction process, you have to give away that real world object and generalize it so that you can use the same ideas in some other contexts also. So abstraction is extremely important process. And I would quickly mention this also about processing of ideas, as I was saying. So idea processing is also, it's like a painting. Maths, you can think of it as if it's like painting, and symmetry and painting, of course, they go hand in hand. There's a beauty, art, symmetry, all these things related. So this is a statement from G.H. Hardy, who was a mentor of Ramanujan in Cambridge, in the Trinity College. And he had written a book, Mathematician's Apology, where he kind of defends his pursuit of mathematics throughout his life. What he says that mathematics is like a painter or a poet, and he's a maker of patterns. And if patterns of mathematicians, if his patterns are more permanent than patterns of poets or painters, that's because they are made with ideas, and ideas are eternal. They never die, right? So maths is all about making patterns of ideas. Fine. So with that beginning note, I would continue. And what's the idea of the day today? Idea of the day today is symmetry, or the other keywords which are related to the concept of symmetry are permutations and groups. So permutations and groups are related to symmetry. So these three words are related to each other. You have seen this as a school student. Even in school, they teach you, okay, there is a mirror symmetry and all that, right? Left and right and all that. some pictures would come in some of the books. Permutations, we also deal with them in our school while counting how many possibilities are there for certain thing and all that. And groups we are taught in the undergraduate level. So let's have a look at groups and connect it with the idea of symmetry. So I have just put two representations to express what I'm going to say, and then on that we'll build upon our conversation. This photo, some of you might have seen, this comes in the flag of a country actually. It's part of flag of this country called Isle of Man. It's a British island. This is part of it. And this picture with three legs, if I rotate by a certain angle, if I rotate by angle of say 120 degree, there is no way for you to make out if the rotation has happened. Right? And here I have just taken three objects. In this case, these are three matchsticks. Suppose I show you three matchsticks and I ask that, okay, you close your eyes and then I shuffle them in some way. Or maybe I don't shuffle them. And then I show you eventually this is the outcome. You have no way to make out if the shuffling has happened. Or the shuffling could also be with some identical objects. So if I take, say, three cards, all of three playing cards, maybe all of them are joker, three joker cards. And if I shuffle them, there is no way for you to determine or not determine whether the shuffling has happened or not. Okay, so that is the basic idea of symmetry, and let me make it slightly more precise. From that idea, we'll go to groups, and then eventually in the end, we'll have some fun with a puzzle. So I stop here and I start writing something. Yeah, this new screen is visible to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Assuming that you people are with me, I'll just continue. Okay. So what did I say? That a shuffling or permutation is a symmetry. That's what I said. In what sense it is symmetry? That if I do permutation, if I permute things, then there is no way for you to make out if the permutation has happened. And how do we track the symmetry? So tracking permutation. And I will be slightly more precise after a while. Let me call it symmetry also. What I just do, there are 6 possible permutations as you know from the school days, right? So first one, let me just label them 1, 2, 3, right? And then let me perform an operation of symmetry which fixes the third one and permutes first and second. So if it permutes first and second, then I will have 2 comes here, 1 comes here, and 3 remains 3, right? So this one is going to be called 1, 2. I'll call it 1, 2. Okay. And after that, I can say if I can perform 1, 3. What is 1, 3? I am swapping 1 and 3. So 2 remains at the same position, but 3 comes here and 1 comes here. Okay. I could have done something else here. I could have done 1, 3 right here, right? 1, 3 first. So what is 1, 3? So in doing 1, 3, I have 2 fixed and 3 comes here, 1 comes here. And afterward, I could have put 1, 2. So if I put 1, 2 now, so are you getting the notation that I am using? I am 1, 2 meaning I am swapping 1 and 2 and keeping 3 intact. So if I do 1, 2, I get 3 here, I get 1 here, I get 2 here. Okay, so I have obtained thus far all these permutations 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 3, 1, 3, 3, 2, 1, 3, 1, 2, like that. So permutation is, I'm just keeping track of this permutation. There is something which is still remaining. Which one? What should I do? There is one permutation which has not been attained so far.
For
Right,
that, we need to do 2-1 now.
For that, we need to do 2-1.
1-2 we can.
No, but 2-1 is same as 1-2.
2-3.
1-3-2 is remaining, huh? So what do I do to obtain 1-3-2?
Yes.
2-3. We can do 2-3.
Simply 2-3, right?
Yes.
So from here, directly, so 1 remains 1 and I do 2-3, right? And I'm so sure now that I have obtained all possible permutations. So I have obtained all possible symmetries. Is that fine with you? So let me just say that, thank you, yeah. So it is 1-3-2. Thank you. So I have obtained everything by doing what? So conclusion is that we have obtained all permutations by swapping 2 matchsticks and repeating the process. Or 2 matchsticks at a time, right? 2 matchsticks at a time. And repeating the process. I hope you are with me on that. And once you see this, you may be inclined to ask a question that can you guess my question? Yeah, pardon my bad handwriting. Pardon if there are. So what if there are? If there are more sticks. So in that case, can you still obtain them by swapping? Does repeated swapping, right? Fetches all, how many? There will be 24 permutations. That's a question. And you may think about this question and how to systematically carry out this. And I'm sure if you pay attention to this question enough, you yourself would come up with a very nice answer, your personal answer. So in mathematics, obtaining personal answers is what would connect you to the subject. Mathematics cannot be learned through certain third person. Okay, you have to talk to the subject. So when you are, when no one is around you, talk to the subject. That will help you. So you will come up, I'm sure, with your own understanding or your own response to this question. I'm not telling you answer or anything. Nevertheless, let me just write one thing that you can compose therefore permutation. What did I do here? What process did I do when I'm obtaining from this one? I am here composing permutations. Right? Composing meaning I'm carrying one permutation after the other permutation. So that is what is being done. And I can simply say that composition of permutations is again a permutation. composition of permutations. Is again a permutation. Yeah. So that is certainly there. All of us know it. Good. Now let me just ask you, just let me take this idea to symmetry, and we'll talk about symmetry of one very basic object. Maybe you all already know it. And from symmetry of rectangle, we'll obtain some interesting solution to a puzzle. Okay, so let me just ask you the following question. I'll stop share. And here I have this rectangle with me. You can see this rectangle, right? And if I don't show it to you and maybe I do something, and if I show you like this now, so you would conclude that I have done some change in it or no? So earlier I showed you this one, and now I am showing you afterward doing something, or maybe not doing something, this. So you would immediately recognize that yes, I have done a rotation, right?
Yes, sir.
But if I ask you to compare the very first thing with this one, would you be able to recognize that I have done something or not?
No, sir.
You will not. So there is an element of confusion, and that confusion is precisely because of symmetry. So symmetry, in a sense, measures how symmetric is something, is in a sense measure of how confused can I get you, how confused can I make you. Okay. So of course, if I have this, I can actually rotate by 180 degree, right? Or what is other possibility for me to confuse and you can't recognize? I can simply swap, I can simply flip it by x-axis, or I can simply flip it by y-axis. You understand that? So these are, for rectangle, these are 4 symmetric operations. You can think of some other symmetric operation. What about if I flip about the diagonal? Will that be called a symmetry? So here it is. And let me just flip it about diagonal. It's like that. Okay. So flipping about diagonal is going to be symmetry or no? It's not going to be symmetry. Because you can now make out, right? If I flip about the diagonal, you can immediately make out that I have done something to this. If it were a square, then it would be a symmetry. Flipping about diagonal would have been a symmetry had it been a square, right? So I can actually tabulate, in case of rectangle, all these symmetries. What are these? Let me call it fx. Fx is flipping about x-axis, and fy is flipping about y-axis, right? These are symmetries, and I have also say r pi is rotation by angle pi. Pi is 180 degree. So these are symmetries in the rectangle. Is there any other symmetry in the rectangle? Can you think of other symmetry in the rectangle? So again, you play enough with it and determine that there is no other symmetry. Of course, there is one, which is just doing nothing. That is also a symmetric operation. Not doing anything is also a symmetric operation. Let me just call it 1. 1 is just a notation. So if I perform either of these operations on the rectangle, you have no way to determine if the operation has been carried out. Okay, so that's our database. to collect all the symmetries. These 4 elements are there. And one thing we have observed in case of permutation, that composition of permutations is again a permutation. This is what we had observed, right? Composition is again a permutation. Composition of permutations is again a permutation, is what we had observed. And same thing is true for symmetry, right? If I perform one thing and you are confused, and if I perform something another back to back, you will still be confused. So composition of symmetries is also a symmetry, right? That composition of symmetries is a symmetry. Therefore, we should be able to compose these things. Compose meaning perform them back to back. Composition meaning back to back performing. Perform these operations back to back. Fine. Therefore, I should be able to write a composition table of these operations. And that is going to be fun for us. Let's see how the composition table looks. So like what we had multiplication table in our school, very early school. So here it's symmetry 1, which is doing nothing, fx, fy, and rpi, right? And here I have again 1. I'm just writing it like what I do with the multiplication table. Fy and rpi. So I'm just tabulating it, and with the faith that composition of symmetries is again a symmetry, I am writing this multiplication table kind of thing. So first operation is this. Second operation is this. Okay, so what happens if I compose 1 with 1? So I don't do anything, I hide it, I don't do anything. What do I have?
1.
Doing nothing. So in fact, with doing nothing, if you compose anything, you will get that other thing only, right? So here, if I don't do anything, and after that I perform fx, that is flipping by x-axis, resultant is going to be eventually flipping by x-axis. Or if I first flip by x-axis, and then if I do nothing, x-axis, and then do nothing, then again fx is going to be there. Similarly for fy and similarly for rpi. And what if I perform fx first? So if I perform, so here is my this thing. If I perform fx and once more I perform fx, what do I get? So this is the original thing. I perform fx and once more fx. Then I am back to the original configuration, right? Back to the original configuration of the rectangle. So fx composed with fx is 1. Original. Very nice. And same should be the case fx, fy. When I compose fy with fy, it is going to be original. And rpi, the rotation by pi is this, and rotation by 2 pi will bring you back to the original configuration, and I have 1 here. So this is the interesting one. What happens when I compose fx with fy? So that will require some effort from me. For that, maybe I should do some cheating. So this is my original configuration. So let me just write F for front and B for back so that you can recognize this the composition. So you can see F, and on the back side I have written B. Is it coming like mirror image, or it's coming original? Oh, that's good. Thanks. So just to make things look okay. So here it is my original thing. Yeah, I have written 1, 2, 3, 4 also. This is just to mark it. The rectangle doesn't know that I have done it. It is just for my perspective that I have put it. So I first rotate, I first flip by x-axis and then I flip it by y-axis. What do I get? It's actually what I would have gotten by rotating the original thing by angle of pi. Right? It's the original thing, x-axis, y-axis, and this is precisely what I would have obtained by rotation of pi. So this composition of fx and fy is, as you have understood, I believe, is r pi. Okay, so symbols have meanings. Symbols are not meaningless in mathematics. Symbols are ways to express our ideas. Okay. Someone's writing opposite of front. I didn't get. What is that? Opposite of front is back. So if you do this twice, these flippings, you are getting r pi. And similarly, if you have fx and r pi. So if you have fx, so this is fx and then r pi, then what you would get is precisely fy. And now you are experts in it, and I'll just write it. F by fx is again r pi. You can do this experiment at home and determine that what I'm writing is correct. So this is fx and this is fy and this is fx. Okay. So what have I obtained? I have obtained a composition table of symmetries, and it has certain properties. What are the properties which it has? Properties are, number one, there is a doing nothing. Is in our list. Yeah, so it's a very good question. In this case, in this particular case, the order did not matter because you can see our list is actually symmetric with respect to the diagonal. With respect to the diagonal, it is symmetric, right? But in many cases, it does matter. If I take some other object and do the same experiment, for example, if I take square, in case of a square, even flipping about diagonal is going to be included. Flipping about both the diagonals is going to be included. That may increase some more symmetries. And in fact, I can mention that there would be 8 symmetries and you would be making 8 by 8. 64 entries you will be filling up. And it would be interesting exercise for you to do, whether in that case, you get the symmetric matrix, the symmetric composition table, or asymmetric. So if it is symmetric, then the order does not matter. Otherwise, the order matters. So thanks for asking the question. So doing nothing is part of our list. That is first property. Okay, color has changed. Back to blue. Second is that for every symmetry, there is reverse symmetry. What's the meaning of that? Meaning of that is that if I do this, then I can trace it back like this. So for every symmetry, there is a reverse symmetry, right? So in the exactly the opposite direction, I can carry out my transformation to get back the original thing. In this case, interestingly, what is the reverse of fx? The reverse of fx in this case, interestingly, is fx. In fact, for fy also the reverse is fy. Okay, so that is just by chance in this case, but that is a general property. And third thing, which is very important, is that composition is associative. And meaning of associative might be clear to you, but nevertheless, I'll mention it. So if you have two symmetries, three symmetries, if I have A, B, C, three symmetries, A, B, C, three symmetries, as one question was asked, does the order matter? So right now, in this case, order does matter. But if you first compose two symmetries and then take the third one, or you compose second and third first and then take the first one, the outcome is equal. And it happens for every ABC. Then you say that composition is associative. So what did you do with this help? With the help of this example, you have actually made some abstract collection of axioms, and a collection of elements and a composition table that satisfies this property is called a group. So what's a group? Group is a collection of symbols. It's a set, and then there is a table of operations, and that set together with that table of operations makes a group. If there is a specific element which acts like doing the thing, if for every element there is an inverse meaning you can bring back to the original position, or you can bring back to the doing nothing position, and the composition is associative. So that way you can define a group. Okay, so all this I motivated to define a group. I started slightly late, so I'll just continue. So keep this thing in mind, and based on this, I can solve very interesting puzzle. I can discuss with you a very interesting puzzle. So what would be an abstract way for me to write all this? Let me rewrite it. I'm just rewriting it in the following way. Because I said that in the abstraction, you may ignore the original motivation and you can simply write it. So if I write a table for you, not using f pi and r pi, fx, fy and r pi, but if I just use certain other symbols, I'm writing E, A, B, C, something like E, A, B, C. Some symbols, and the table is exactly the same principle which was there. And AA is E, BB is E, CC is E, okay, and AB is C, like that. And some of you might already have seen such an object in your undergraduation. So this is also symmetry of rectangle, right? So this is a group. So I have just rewritten symmetry of rectangle. So are you with me on all this? So if yes, then I'll start the next part where some puzzle comes in the picture, interestingly. Which operation has to be made first? You can make, you can just decide your own convention, right? There is no universal way of saying something. You just determine your own convention. And yes, as someone is saying, this group has a name, and it's called Klein's 4 group. Oh. Oops, I've just inverted it. Yeah. It's Klein's 4 group. That is just the name. But let me just show you something interesting using this very basic observation that composition of symmetries of rectangle makes a symmetry. So I'm going to play a game, and this thing you might have seen sometime in your childhood. So I stop share and I show you this. I hope my camera can focus on it. Yeah, you can see this?
Yes, sir. It is visible.
Yes, sir.
Oh, good. So have you seen this game ever in your life?
Yes, sir.
And you know, how am I going to play this?
Yes, sir. By crossing one of the beats.
Yeah, making one jump over the other. And what I'm going to demonstrate is that this game has coincidentally something to do with what we have done just now, which is symmetries of a rectangle. So that would be surprising connection, right? Okay. So I first identify some empty space. Empty space is here. So what I can do is that, for example, this one, I can make it jump over this and throw it away. Okay. Now there are more spaces, so there are more possibilities. I can take this and jump over it and bring it here. Or now there are more open spaces, so I have more possibilities. I am just playing it. If I make a mistake or do cheating, you tell me. So you can see this, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what is the objective of this game? Every game.
All the beats.
Well, all meaning in the end there is one that one cannot jump over anything.
Yes.
So if possible, or as much as you try to knock out, you knock out. So whatever minimum you can do that. Okay. So I'm having some fun. Let me play it in a faster mode. See, something is going to remain here in any case. Oh, see, I have goofed up, but still. I wish I'm not cheating now. And now is there a way possible further?
No, sir.
No, it's not possible. Okay, so I end up with 5. Okay, you can play it enough and determine if in the end you can have 1. Having 1 in the end would be the most wonderful thing in this game, right? Okay, good. So this game I have played with you, and let me just continue the discussion. Is the game clear to us? What game did I play? The rules of the game?
Yes.
Okay. So after showing you Klein-Sfor group or the group of symmetries of rectangle, I come to this puzzle, and this puzzle had a name. Maybe it comes to the market with the name Brainvita, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah. I have to. I didn't realize that. Okay, you are not seeing me. Yeah. Okay. Its much formal name is Brain Solitaire. So solitaire is what we are going to learn. So what is the move in the solitaire? Here I have shown the move in the solitaire, right? This is the move in the solitaire. You take it, you jump and knock off whatever is the mid. This move, if you focus enough, if you observe enough, and if you observe the multiplication table or the composition table of the Klein-Sfor group, which is the group of symmetries of a rectangle. Do you see some similarity? Do you see something common there? And can you utilize that principle to say something about this game of Brainvita? Yeah, so that's slightly different. So that's slightly difficult question. It's harsh on you for me to ask this question. But anyway, sometimes teachers should be harsh and make students think beyond the comfort zone of students. Okay. So these are the curiosities that I have. First is, if in this game, by using this rule, and I played using this rule, if in the end only one marble remains, at what position could it be? Or a question could be that this particular configuration which I am showing you, is it ever achievable? How will you answer such questions? By playing this game enough number of times? Well, maybe first question you can guess after playing it enough number of times with your experience, with some confidence. But second question is much more difficult. can this configuration be ever achieved? Yeah, I think if you try to do by playing again and again, you will not come up with a solid answer. The point here is to realize that there is similarity in this particular game, this puzzle, and Kleins 4 group, or the group of the group of symmetries of a rectangle. Okay, so what do? I just try to be clever. This is our game, right? This is the skeleton of our game. And I write it like this. I am just labeling all the locations by A, B, C, B, C, A, like that. Just stare at this pattern and recognize that there is certain cyclicity which is there in this scheme of labeling. You can see A, B, C, and then these things are permuted cyclically. B, C, A, and then I start A, B, C, and A, B, C in such a way so that the vertical thing A, B, C comes. A, B, C, 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 like that. So there is some cyclicity which is inherent in this. And the key point which I want you to observe is this. This would be a typical situation, A, B, C, A, B, C, like that. There are three consecutive. I'm focusing on three consecutive marbles. So what are the possibilities? Either A, B, C locations are marked with either A, B, C, or other cyclic thing is B, C, A, or other cyclic thing is C, A, B, right? These three possibilities could be there. I'm just picking one of that, A, B, C, right? Now, if I play the game and this is the outcome, can you see there is something which has not changed in this? Just think of the Kleins 4 group that I wrote EABC, motivated by the rectangle. Can you see that something is constant while I am playing the move? What is constant? If I pretend as if these labels are borrowed from Kleins 4 group, okay, then what is the product of B into C in the Kleins 4 group? Are you with me? It's A, right? That table that I showed you. Let's see once more. That table, this one, B into C is A, right? The third one. So that is the point. And the conclusion that I make is that if I treat ABC as if they are non-trivial meaning non-identity, identity meaning something which does nothing to the rectangle. So you throw it away, other elements. So treat as if these labels ABC are non-trivial elements of Kleins 4 group. And then the product of labels at occupied position of the Brainmeter game, of this Pax Solitaire game. So at a given position, what are all the occupied positions? So here A is occupied position, here B and C are occupied position. Then the product of labels at occupied position remains constant throughout the game. And that is the main observation. And on the basis of that observation, let's see, what do I say? I say that what is the product, or let me just call it value of the initial board, just the fancy name I am giving, value of the initial board. In the beginning, the central one is not there, right? Central thing is missing. You have to have a space to start the game. So this is what it is. Let me compute the product of the occupied positions in the beginning. And that product remains constant throughout. That's what the observation, this one, says. This is how we labeled, and the first row product is E. And fortunately, the product was irrespective of the order. So we can easily take the product. Product is E, and BCA, again it's E. But this one, ABC product is E, right? Because A into B is C. C into C is E. So ABC is identity, ABC is identity, A. So A remains. So here BCA, 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 and BCA. So here it should be B. Sorry, there's a typo here. It should be B. Okay, it should be B. And then CAB, CAB. So it should be C. No, sorry, there is no typo because the B is not occupied, right? B is not occupied. So BCA is E, and then CAB is E. So E into E is E only because I am considering only occupied position, right? So this row is E, and then ABC, ABC, this cancels out, identity to identity, and what remains is C, and then CAB is E, and ABC is E. So if I take all this product of all the rows which are here in this column, last column, and the eventual product here would be how much? A into C, which is B. Therefore, value of the initial board is B. And B remains constant throughout the game of brain data. And therefore, in the end, if there is only one marble, that one marble has to occupy the position which is B. Right? So that's a beautiful conservation law that we have now with us. So what quantity is being conserved is some abstract quantity. Okay. There are so many physical quantities which are there, and like energy, right? It's also an abstract quantity in some sense. It helps you understand certain concept better. Okay. So last marble therefore can be on these positions where B is there, right? And I am saying that last marble cannot be at this position. This one, the red ones, it cannot be there. Because if last marble can be here at this B position, by playing the game in the mirror, you can also ensure that it is in the A. By playing the game as if you are playing left, right, just left, right handedness, you can also conclude that it is in the A, but A cannot have the last marble. Therefore, this B, which are coming in these corners will not have last marble, and therefore these 5 are the only possibilities where if at all last marble remains, it has to be in one of these 5. And now the problem is reduced because now you can actually play enough times to see that yes, all these 5 positions are achievable in the game. So did you understand what I said throughout? The argument is using certain product law, and that product law came just through an observation and our understanding of a certain group. That group was coming from rectangle, and as such rectangle had nothing to do with this puzzle. So we did some abstraction of the group and used that group in some other context which was dealing with puzzles. So let me just finish my lecture by saying few things. So symmetry and permutation, we realize that they are related things, and both of them are related to groups. And you can understand the groups in situations wherever either you can identify the group law explicitly, or wherever certain permutation happens. So certain permutations happen in things like this also, right? Rubik's cube. However, here these permutations happen in a restricted way. Not everything is going to be permuted to everything else, because the one which is in the mid, it's going to remain in the mid. It cannot come in corners. So this is restricted permutation, and group theory allows you to understand these restricted permutations as well. Or you can have more complicated objects, not just a rectangle, but you could have some more complicated things like what I have in my hand. This is a 3-dimensional object. It is called icosahedron. Okay, or there's a dual of it which is called dodecahedron. Right? We can try to understand symmetries of these objects also and construct a group out of it. And if you start observing it, so if I hold it like this, certain rotations, right? Certain rotations are going to give certain symmetric operations to it. So when I hold it and rotate it by, these are 5 here. So if I rotate it by 2 pi by 5, which is how much? 72 degree, right? So if I move it by 72 degree each time, so this one This one like that, you get so many symmetries, or you could hold it in some other direction. For example, you could hold it by taking the midpoints of the opposite triangles and rotate it by an angle of 120 degree. Or you could take the midpoints of edges, hold it and rotate by 180 degree like this, and rotate by 180 degree full. So using that, you can try to identify the group of symmetry of this. And as an information, I can tell you that there are 60 of them. And if you start composing them and make a table, there's a table 60 comes here, there's a table where 60 comes there. So you would end up making 3,600 computations. That much of the computation you will be making. Therefore, to understand groups and symmetries, it may not be a very good idea to completely rely on the multiplication table as it is in its raw form. You have to have some insight into it. You have to have some smart way of understanding what is the main part of it, what's the soul, what's the major essence of the whole multiplication table. And for that, you should learn group theory. So maybe with that, I will stop. And I hope I have motivated you to see group theory with a perspective which looks interesting and allows you to or motivates you to take the subject and pursue it. Yeah, I'll stop now. Thank you so much for listening with full patience.
Thank you so much, sir. It was indeed our pleasure to get to hear from you. It was really an interesting and enriching session. I'm sure the session helped each one of us to dwell and see the mathematics a bit more. We'll have the Q&A session in just a while. Before that, I would like to request everyone to please turn on their cameras for a group photograph of this event. Okay, so thank you everyone for your cooperation. Now, if anyone has any questions for sir, either you can post them in the chat box or you can raise your hand. We'll unmute you. So we can begin with the Q&A round now.
We have a question from Swati in the chat box.
Okay.
Sir, you are muted.
Yeah, can you help me identify the question?
Yes,
I can't.
So Swati is asking, is every symmetry a permutation?
Okay. Someone can help me to answer this question? Okay. So let me just say it. So what was that? We decided that, say, flipping about x-axis is a symmetry. Now this can be thought of as, in the raw form, it is what? If you think of all the points, you just take 0, 0 here and maybe some coordinate here, which could be say 2, 1, something like that. If you put coordinates on this, and then you can think of it as a part of the coordinate system, but the number of points is going to be infinitely many, right? And in doing this process, I have done a permutation of infinitely many elements. That could be one approach. So this symmetry is to be regarded as a permutation of infinitely many elements. But you can also think of it as if it's a permutation of vertices, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can also think of it as a, when I do this, you can also think of it as a permutation of 4 elements. And now the point is, by restricting to vertices, are you losing something or are you gaining something? And that, depending on your requirement, you have to come up with a proper answer to this yourself. That for your given context, is it meaningful to have permutation of infinitely many elements, or to have, or it suffices for your purpose to think of it as a permutation of 4 elements, right? Quite often it happens that certain infinite objects can be understood through finite data. That happens because you try to realize that whether you take that finite data or entire infinite object, doesn't matter. It doesn't lose any information. So your answer to this question would be, I would tend to say yes, every symmetry would be a permutation. But to say it more confidently, I should have done something which I have not done, because I have kind of cheated in this lecture. I should have properly defined symmetry. Okay, after defining it, I could have been in a position to say that, okay, this definition allows me to say that every symmetry is a permutation. So Swati, do you get an answer to the question? Or maybe enough food for thought that you can think further about this answer or this question? Okay. Okay, good. More questions you can ask?
Sir, I had a question.
Yeah, who is that?
Shruti
Yeah.
Gupta.
Okay, yeah.
Sir, so I wanted to ask, like you told us right now that we can approach the concept of these puzzles and symmetries through permutation. Is there any other way to approach that? Only through permutations?
See, most of the puzzles are having innate, they are having some intrinsic permutation usually. Yeah, so symmetry and permutation, they are usually basic ingredients of puzzles, unless those are based on some number theoretic concepts. Yeah, so I would tend to say yes, most puzzles would have some element of symmetry in them.
Like as you said in the beginning, we need to keep in mind all the patterns to try to find which one that one.
Yeah. Say, for example, the most famous puzzle which you see in newspaper is the Sudoku, right? The point is, can you express your Sudoku puzzle as a permutation group, as a group where some as something where you can derive, you can compute using permutations, and that is very much possible. Or let's think of the following, and I thought about it and I have no answer to it. Maybe some of you can help me. The most ancient game, you know which game I'm talking about, where India is quite good at, and people relate that game to yes, Gauri, you got it right. It's a chess. So chess also you can think of it as a permutation. There are so many pieces and locations, and certain permutation is happening, but that is not free permutation. It is restricted permutation, because your knight cannot really move diagonally or in the columns or rows. It has to go by a certain rule, right? So that's also permutation. So it's up to your skills if you can convert it into permutations and then can say something meaningful for it. So I tried to say something for chess. I was not really successful, but maybe there are ways to look at that as a permutation. But I hope I am able to convey a sense of the ideas to you, because it's not that all the answers, all the questions have found their answers already. No, there are so many open problems in all the areas of mathematics. Right? That's what is keeping the subject alive for so many centuries. There are even new solutions give rise to new questions. If problem is solved, open problem is solved, and then there are some 20 questions coming out of it. So maths is really growing that way. So maybe there is a way to look at chess as a permutation puzzle. Who knows? I don't know, but the vague idea is there, which I can communicate to you. Yeah.
Okay, so we have another question from Devinder. He's asking, as circle is a figure of infinite points from a fixed point, Then can we also talk about the permutations in circle?
Yeah. So what you are having is the rotation, right? You're having rotation of infinitely many points. Okay. So yes, it is. You can think of it as a cyclic permutation. It's you can think about group of rotations or group of symmetries of a circle. So group of symmetries of a circle, maybe you can call. Well, it's a product of a circle itself and some Z mod 2, but let's not really worry about that now. So you can think of circle symmetries as permutations, but those are infinitely many points which are coming up. Usually permutations are interesting and they have very nice way of dealing when you have finite data.
Okay, I hope that resolves your doubt, Devinder.
Well, even I am not sure, Shruti, if I have resolved his doubt, but see, there is nothing like you say something and I have resolved the doubt. It's just about discussion which, so my response should make him respond to that. And I think then the purpose is served.
Yes, sir, he is responding.
Yes, and then he'll think more and he can write to me. Because the mutual discussions lead to the better understanding, right?
Yes, sir. He said that you got your point.
Okay, good, Devinder.
Himanshu is asking, which topics would you consider as the most interesting ones for a better understanding of symmetry?
Topics, I don't know. As the most interesting ones for the better understanding of symmetry. Well, group theory, certainly. Group theory and sometimes some combinatorial ideas, they are useful. But if you want to understand symmetry in the best way, then maybe I should recommend that you should try to understand matrices, matrix multiplication. You know how to multiply matrices, right? That has a lot to do with the symmetry. So linear algebra, where matrix multiplication is a part of it, or linear transformations, because linear transformations can be thought of as symmetry of, for example, to understand symmetry of these things. Linear algebra is one of the tools. Okay, so linear algebra is one tool, group theory is one tool, and a lot about symmetry can be understood using more complicated objects. For example, there is something called quaternion algebras that you may not see at all maybe in your syllabus, but yeah. And if you allow me to utter a few more words, there is something called Lie groups or Lie algebras. So as you grow in your mathematical journey, you will encounter certain situations for which you will be creating new objects. And that's how the journey continues. So I can go on and say no, all these things, Lie groups or algebraic groups or whatnot. But yes, at this level, matrix multiplication, linear algebra, group theory, a little bit of permutation, a little bit of combinatorics.
Okay, sir. I guess that was the last question
we have another question, Lavanya, in the chat box.
Okay. Ritu is asking, many figures have rotational symmetry, but not reflective symmetry. Why is that?
Okay, that is a very interesting question, and it may be answered in multiple ways. But before that, I would like someone, or maybe Ritu herself, to say which figure is she having in mind right now. She's saying many figures have rotational symmetry, but not reflective symmetry. So what kind of figures do you have in mind, Ritu?
You can unmute yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. See, sometimes what is there is that we restrict ourselves to certain symmetries. See, for example, I'll just maybe Ritu, on your behalf, I'll answer the question which I asked you. This is there, right? It's a three-dimensional object. What would be reflection symmetry here? Reflection symmetry would be that you just take it and just imagine as if you are dividing it into half, one left half, other right half, and these things are like suddenly swept in a mirror. But that operation I cannot carry out physically. Mathematically, yes, as a linear transformation, I can write a linear transformation of determinant -1, so to say. I can have, in theory, that the reflection is there for this. But rotation, but the reflection may not be achievable by tangible model, by model which I can hold in my hand. Reflection you cannot attain that way. Okay, so in some context it might be okay to just restrict your attention to reflective symmetries, because other complicated types of symmetries may not be visually realizable and may not be sensible to talk about in one particular context.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, so three-dimensional symmetries are like that. When for three-dimensional objects, that situation would come. And I'll just say, I'll not say beyond that. Reflection in 2 dimensions actually becomes rotation in 3 dimensions. Just think about this statement. Reflection in 2 dimensions becomes rotation in 3 dimensions. So Ritu, maybe just thinking along these lines will help you to further come up with more questions, and maybe you'll get answer to your question then.
Is it clear now, Ritu? I hope it's clear.
Okay.
So
Ritu had unmuted, but I think there is some problem with her mic.
So now I think that was the last question we had. With this, we resonate with the end of this session. We thank you, Amit sir, for giving us your valuable time and resolving all the queries with such patience and enthusiasm. All the participants are requested to fill the feedback form. The link for the same has been provided in the chat box. I would also like to express our gratitude towards the Department of Mathematics for giving us this platform to host this event. And with this, I invite Dr. Jitendra Agarwal, TIC of Department of Mathematics, to conclude the event and give a formal vote of thanks. Please, sir.
So you are muted.
Yes, am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yes. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing new perspectives about symmetry and applying it to puzzles in such an interesting way. I'm sure that these ideas will be highly beneficial to the students as well as faculty members. On the behalf of department, I wholeheartedly thank you for this marvelous talk and encouraging students to understand the concepts of group theory with refreshing ideas. Sir has rightly said during the talk that it is by doing that we learn mathematics. I'm sure that students have got very good motivation to do mathematics and looking at things with new perspectives. Sir, we hope to have many more interactions with you in future also. I would like to thank all the faculty members, research scholars and students who have joined this talk from all over the country. I request all of you to please fill the feedback form. We'll try to send e-certificates to all of you as soon as possible. I would also like to thank the faculty members of our department for their immense support for this event. And lastly, special thanks to the members of Student Council who for taking care of every single thing in organizing such a big event. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. So we'll wait for a few more minutes for anyone who has still not filled the feedback form.
Okay. So,
thank you so much, sir, for coming to this event and giving your time to us. It was really an interesting session.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It was a pleasure. And I wish if I could visit to your college at some point of time when pandemic goes away.
Yes, sir, definitely, sir. Thank you.
Wish the same, sir.
We have also provided the link for all our social media platforms in the chat box. You can follow us there for future updates on all the events we organize. Thank you everyone for joining us today.
Thank you, everyone.